Welcome to the Rugby League Bunker, the show where we review the big issues around the game. My name's Clint, thanks for joining us.
So let's get this thing on.
On this update, we'll be taking a look at the NRL Grand Final and the draw for the upcoming World Cup. Let's get into it. Yes, the Penrith Panthers dominated all season and utterly dominated the grand final as well. 28-12 over a brave but outclassed Parramatta Eels. The Panthers go back-to-back, a feat only ever done by the 2018-2019 Roosters in the NRL era. The win was the fourth premiership in the club's history, moving them up alongside the Western Suburbs, the Melbourne Storm, and their grand final rivals themselves, the Parramatta Eels, on the all-time list. For Para, the longest current premiership drought in the NRL continues. So with the NRL and the Super League completed for the year, let's turn our attention to the Rugby League World Cup. England, Samoa, France and Greece make up Group A. England versus Samoa is actually the opening match of the tournament and it's so exciting, I can't wait for that one. This match is the key to the group, as these are the two sides that are likely to progress, but it's the order that they progress that matters a lot, especially as we get into the knockout stages, and we'll get into that a bit later. For me, there are three keys for England. Firstly, the home ground advantage. St James's Park in Newcastle, 52,000 fans. Big edge for them. Secondly, the conditions. They're much different than they are in Australia and New Zealand, and we don't know how Samoa is going to handle that. And thirdly, their halfback George Williams. He's a genuine seven with NRL experience who can steer the team around the park. Samoa don't have that. They've got Luai and Milford, who are good running 5/8s, but they're not game-managing halfbacks. Tavita Harris, of course, is in the squad, but he's not at the same level as George Williams. Samoa's strength is the amount of big match experience they have in their squad. State of Origin experience, NRL Finals experience, Premiership winners. A lot of their squad's just used to winning. For me, the opener's 50-50, and it'll depend on how Samoa decides to play. Tonga's given them a blueprint on how to be successful without a traditional halfback, and I'm sure their coaching staff are smart enough to build a game plan around their size, skill, and mobility. France are sending their best side in a very long time to this World Cup. If you don't follow Super League closely, Toulouse spent the season in Super League alongside the Catalans Dragons, which means for the first time ever there were two professional French clubs in Super League. That gave their pool of players valuable experience going into this World Cup. Theophage, who's by far and away their best player and a genuine NRL level halfback, is out of the World Cup though due to injury, and that's a huge blow for France if they wanted to have any chance of getting out of the pool. Greece, what a story. Where do I start with this one? Rugby League was banned in Greece during their World Cup qualification campaign. They played most of their qualifiers outside of Greece to avoid trouble, and they played one qualifier in Athens against Malta in the middle of the night at a secret location to avoid the police showing up and shutting the game down, which would have resulted in a forfeit, which would have meant that they wouldn't have progressed to the next round of qualifiers and they wouldn't be at the World Cup. To top it off, they did it all with only 4 heritage players in the squad, meaning a large group of amateur Greek players went through all that to get their country to a World Cup. Now that's playing for the love of the game if I've ever seen it. The fact that they've got Lachlan Ilias and Peter Mamazoulis from South Sydney playing for them is huge, not just because they bring NRL experience, but because they're playing in the key positions of 7 and 9. Let's be honest, Greece will probably run last in the group, but they're the story of the World Cup, and I want their story to be known during this World Cup by the wider sporting public around the world, because they've shown so much heart to get here. Australia, Fiji, Scotland and Italy make up Group B. The Kangaroos are clear favourites to get out of the group on top, with Fiji second favourites. Australia have been slightly weakened by the group of dual-eligible players that elected to play for Samoa, but they're still the strongest, if not equal strongest, side on the tournament, which shows their strength in depth. We all know that. The forward pack won't be the biggest or most dominant in the cup, but still high quality. It's the spine, though, where the Kangaroos excel. Tedesco, Munster, DCE or Cleary at halfback. Mal Meninga said that they'll both get a run during the cup. And Harry Grant and Ben Hunt covering 9. All big game premiership and state of origin players.
Fiji missed out on Regan Campbell-Gillard to Australia, but unexpectedly picked up Api Coruscant, who I thought would certainly make the Australian squad as the New South Wales and Premiership winning number 9. Fiji have made the World Cup semi-finals at the last 3 Cups, going out to Australia on all 3 occasions. Their squad isn't quite as strong as it was at the last World Cup, but we'll see if they can match that achievement again this time around. Like Fiji, Scotland and Italy aren't as strong as they have been at previous World Cups, and they can look to their matchup against each other as their best hope of leaving the World Cup with a win under their belt. New Zealand, Lebanon, Jamaica and Ireland make up Group C. New Zealand, for me, are equal favourites with Australia to win their second World Cup. They've got a ferocious forward pack and a spine of Manu, Brown, Hughes and Smith that on their day can match it with the Australian spine. New Zealand have reached the point these days where they've got a big enough NRL player pool that they've got world-class players right throughout their squad and depth in key positions. They're going to be a real challenge for the Kangaroos, not only at this World Cup, but moving forward. It could be a real golden age for the Kangaroo-Kiwi rivalry. The rest of the group's wide open, with all 3 conceivably getting out of the group. Jamaica, a great story. Rugby League was founded there in 2009. They've grown the grassroots nicely, getting government support and getting into the school system. They beat the more fancied United States to qualify for the tournament, and they've got a fairly good contingent of players with Super League experience that'll help put them in the mix to get out of the group. Lebanon are at their 3rd World Cup and trying to emulate the quarterfinal appearance from 2017, where, let's not forget, they came within 2 points of knocking out Tonga in the quarterfinals. What a sliding doors moment for both teams. The game in Lebanon is small but growing. It's in the university system, which is important for continual growth of the game, but it can't be underestimated how much of a boost being at the World Cup is for nations like this. Growing up in Australia, or if you're from England or New Zealand, it's easy to take playing in the Rugby League World Cup for granted. But for those on the ground trying to grow the games in countries like Greece, Jamaica or Lebanon, amongst others, it's a massive boost. Ireland, they're always solid, and it's going to be no different at this World Cup. It's so tough to pick who's getting out of this group. I think maybe Ireland, but I don't say that with any confidence. Tonga, PNG, Wales and the Cook Islands will contest Group D. Tonga, famously at the 2017 World Cup, made a nice run where they beat New Zealand to top their group and came within 2 points of knocking off England in the semi-finals. Then went on following that World Cup to beat both Great Britain and Australia. They've made it as one of the big boys now. They're the top seed in their group, and they'll be the hunted, not the hunters, this time around. Although most of the focus has been on Samoa, which may take a bit of pressure off them. PNG will be solid and impressive as always, and they're a threat to Tonga in terms of winning the group. They showed mid-season in the Pacific Test what they can do against Fiji. Those PNG Hunter combinations are really working for them. Over the next 5 years, we're going to see the Hunters production line fully kick into gear for PNG, and they'll be a force like Tonga and Samoa are now. A country with a population of 9 million rugby league mad people, quality domestic competition, professional pathways through the best rugby league system in the world, Australia, through the QRL competition. And most importantly, the players they produce through those production lines will be eligible for PNG and PNG only, so they won't be relying on heritage players. This will help them build continuity and combinations in the national team, a luxury Australia, New Zealand, England have always had, which is why they've been the dominant nations. Fiji will be in a similar boat with the Kaviti Silktails in the New South Wales Rugby League system. Don't be surprised if these two, PNG and Fiji, are up there in front of where Tonga and Samoa are in the next 5 to 10 years. The Cook Islands, the only country other than PNG where rugby league is the national sport, will be tough as always, but probably won't have the quality to get over Tonga and PNG. Similar story with Wales, who interestingly enough haven't won a World Cup game since the 2000 World Cup 22 years ago. A strange stat for a nation that generations gone by were, along with France, the leading second-tier nations behind Australia, New Zealand and England. Hopefully we can see Wales rise again in the future, but they'll struggle at this World Cup, and the win drought may continue. So let's take a look at how the quarterfinals will pan out. The Group A winners, so England or Samoa, will play the Group D runners-up, who will likely be PNG. The Group A runners-up will play the Group D winners, who will likely be Tonga. This is the reason why the opening match between England and Samoa is so critical for both sides, as the winner will likely top the group. And do you really want to be running into Tonga in the quarterfinals? Although a Samoa-Tonga quarterfinal would be mouthwatering. The Group C winners, who will likely be New Zealand, will take on the Group B runners-up, who will likely be Fiji. And the Group C runners-up, which could be Ireland, Lebanon or Jamaica, will face the winners of Group B, who will likely be the defending champion Kangaroos. Geez, what a reward for getting out of your group. If England top their group and get past PNG in the quarters, they'll have either Tonga or Samoa waiting for them in the semis. Oof, what a semi that could be. And let me tell you, Samoa are likely to work their way into the tournament and get better and better as it goes on, as they find their combinations. So if England beat them in the opener, it's quite possible for the tables to be turned in the semi. But honestly, in the bottom half of the draw there, any combination of PNG, England, Tonga or Samoa would be awesome. And what's better than a Tonga-Samoa quarterfinal? A Tonga-Samoa semi-final, of course. In the top half, barring a major upset, Australia and New Zealand are on a semi-final collision course. Wow, what a game that's going to be. Given the strength of the Kiwi side and the Australian eligible players that chose Samoa over the Kangaroos, it's quite conceivable that Australia doesn't make the World Cup final for the first time since 1954, where Great Britain beat France in the final of the first ever Rugby League World Cup. How incredible would that be? And honestly, not a terrible thing for the game to have a more unpredictable World Cup. And that's us updated. Enjoy the World Cup. Hit that subscribe button to catch updates right throughout the tournament. See you next time.